Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a best of 5 series from Dreamhack Dallas. We're in game number 1 on the right side of the map, playing right here with the blue Zerg pieces. We have none other than Solar and his opponent down over here on the left side with the red Zerg pieces. We're looking inside of the main base of SHIN. Alrighty, a best of 5 series of Zerg versus Zerg, and interestingly enough, we've got a little bit of build order variety. Solar opting to go for a extractor trick early. SHIN going for what looks like a good old 16 hatch. So you can actually compare the hatchery timings here with these two specific build orders. It's basically identical. The only difference here is that SHIN, of course, already has that additional Overlord done, and in general, that makes life a little bit easier, but it does usually mean that Solar is also going to follow this up here in just a moment with a good old gas geyser and then also a spawning pool. Not really opting to go for a super fast, like, spawning pool on the back of this. Zerg versus Zerg, right? It's one of those matchups where you can die very easily. The best analogy I've ever heard for Zerg versus Zerg that always pops up in my head is a knife fight inside of a phone booth. Now, the longer that StarCraft 2 is going on for, I guess phone booths are going to be less and less relevant, and at some point in time I'm going to have to explain what that is. But at the very least, it's a very clumsy matchup. Like, margin for error, in general in StarCraft 2 is absolutely tiny, but in Zerg vs. Zerg I feel like it's even more so. Just because the units all deal a lot of damage and, well, they in general just don't have a lot of survivability. There's a lot of Baneling hits that can end the game. There's a lot of Roach run-bys, a lot of tunneling Clawed Roaches, Muta transitions, Nidus worms. Ultimately, and we don't really see this all too frequently, but ultimately, the unit composition you are aiming for is Hydra Lurker Viper. Hydra Lurker Viper, in theory, in Zerg vs. Zerg, kills everything. It's just that in order to get to Hydra Lurker Viper, you need probably about 8 gas geysers to reliably get there. So you need 4 bases in order to actually get to that point. If we ever have maps that have, like, I don't know, an additional gas geyser on one of the third bases, for example, it'd be kind of interesting to see if any of those threats would change. But most of the time, just getting up to 4 bases is practically impossible. Because even though these guys are practically the best in the business, they will still be human, right? They will still make occasional mistakes, and the matchup really can be over in a heartbeat. So let's see. Third hatchery coming up for both players. Baneling Nest coming up right now for Solar. All of this is very normal. Solar in general, actually, somebody who doesn't really mix it up all too often. Solar very much so your quintessential macro Zerg. SHIN, he's got a little bit of that craziness in him. Honestly, maybe at this point in time, Solar is actually like the most standard Zerg player out there. Even Sarah has been mixing it up. Raynor has been mixing it up quite a bit. I feel like Solar is still very much so playing the true to 2010 style, you know, where he just absorbs every attack. He tries to build more stuff than the opponent, and then he overwhelms him. He is perfectly capable of mixing it up, as he does decide to go for an Evo chamber, but most of the time, he is the more conventional Zerg player. Okay, so hidden evolution chamber, what can it be? Well, you can go for a quick +1 missile. You can go for a quick +1 melee. SHIN actually sending around a Zergling, but interestingly enough, he did not see the one spot that the hidden structure was located in. That's so annoying for him. I think that Solar believes, though, that he has been spotted. So Solar saw the Zergling there running around. He probably assumed that there was a glimpse. So he probably assumes that he is now playing against an opponent who has spotted the timing of the Evo chamber, and therefore there's a good chance that Solar's original attack is not going to be the one he will go for, because he believes that the opponent hasn't seen it. If he does commit to it, though, so the plan is to go for good old Roaches with +1, I wonder if these Zerglings in red are just going to melt. Well, SHIN has made a lot of units, and he decides to try and see if he can go for a big attack. In the meantime, there are already lings as well on the other side of the map, as one queen has fallen. Third hatchery, though, in a world of trouble, as we have some defensive banelings running in too. Second queen goes down here. SHIN not really making a lot of Zerglings here, at least not immediately. So this fight here is going incredibly nicely for Solar, who now has the third base up still. He's got a significant worker advantage. He's killed the opponent's queens, And he does have that tech lead, although he decided to cancel the Evo Chamber upgrade in favor of an additional group of roaches. I think he could have kept the upgrade. Okay, Banelings running around, trying their very best to just get into the perfect spot, but so far, no luck. Okay, Shin has decided that if he goes up against any sort of counterattack, he's dead. So he's just droning. He's just droning, and he's hoping that his opponent is gonna let him mine in peace for just a little bit. Solar not having the +1 missile, though, really does make this entire fight a little bit more unfortunate. He restarts it here for the second time. It's become very popular in this matchup so far over the last year or so for players to go for a lair, cancel the lair. Go for the upgrade, cancel the upgrade. They just keep canceling stuff when they see the opponent moving out because they really need to squeeze out an additional unit or two. The reason, by the way, why +1 missile is so nice, generally speaking, armor upgrades in Zerg versus Zerg, not really something you rush out all too often anymore. And if the opponent does not have armor upgrades, so Shin is not going for any carapace research, the roaches will go from 3-shotting Zerglings to 2-shotting Zerglings with +1, which makes a massive difference. Like suddenly, when you get the +1 missile done, Zerglings in straight-up fights just don't work anymore. Now, Shin has been very greedy here, by the way. Almost excessively so, considering he just lost a lot of stuff at home. I don't think he... Ooh, what about this? Oh, nice detonation for Solar. Gets a ton of the Zerglings. Yeah, I'm still a little bit concerned for when ultimately Solar goes across the map. Shin has been greedy, so he's been rebuilding his economy. He's been building up his queen count once more. He's been going for his own upgrade. He's going for a defensive spine crawler too. But this army here in blue is slowly cooking up, and it's going to hit like an absolute truck. Solar looking rock solid so far in game number 1. Not really making any slip-ups as far as I can tell. I mean, he canceled the +1, but that was a calculated decision. He probably assumed his opponent knew that the +1 was researching, right? So he thought that the Zergling scout already saw it. Now he decides to go across the map with the +1 finishing. Notice, by the way, neither player going for a lair. So no lair anywhere to be seen. We are just gonna go straight into roaches and Zerglings and all the rest of it. Defensive spine crawlers coming up. There is one that is done. Zerglings have to be careful. Looks like the Banelings have now been sniped down. Banelings in blue, though, the ones that were made earlier, are gonna slip around the site, and, well, they will secure the advantage in this fight regardless of the roach war. Now Solar starts up a lair. I mean, 12 drones is too many workers to lose. And Solar is just looking so incredibly powerful. He's even winning the main engagement. Yeah. Yeah, Solar a step ahead here in game number 1. Again, margin for error is tiny. Those slip-ups, they can happen in a heartbeat. Literally. But so far, Solar is playing a better game. Now, he did lose a lot of his roaches there. Oh, Zergling swoops in and snipes the queen as well right after injecting the base. Problem is, right, when roach speed is done, or even like a +2 missile, there is about 0% chance that Shin is going to be able to hold those in the roach wars. Shindo, once more, behind, not deterred, decides to start up a lair of his own. He already got away with it once, when he took a lot of damage earlier on in this game. Now he's decided to just once more go for a whole lot of tech and then go for a bunch of drones as well. Assuming Solar doubles down on unit production, though, you should be able to overwhelm this with relative ease. But once more, if he decides to sit back for too long, Shin might just be able to get away with the greed. It is going to be a roach speed. Of course, in a roach war, if you have one player with speed and the other player that does not have speed, it just makes such a big difference. It means that you can never really expect the opponent to go across the map. Shin might just go for like a lair and then into like a spire. I think spire would be a cool play. Yeah, he's going into additional gases now. We do have a overseer going around, so he knows that the opponent certainly has a lair done at this point in time. Yeah, spire. I love it. The spire is like your easiest comeback mechanic in this matchup, right? It's very difficult to get mutas out at this stage in the game. It requires Solar to sit back, and Solar is already sending units out across once more. He doesn't know if there's a spire building for the opponent, but he knows that that is one of the few ways in which this game can still slip out of his hands. He needs to go, though. And I feel like this is something that Solar sometimes does, where he's like playing so safe that it's like a little bit too safe. And then by playing a little bit too safe, you end up being not safe anymore. He's basically just really crossing his eyes and... Wait, what? Crossing his eyes and dotting his T's? Sure, let's go with that. He's trying to make sure he really wins the Roach War. But in the meantime, the Spire is ticking. Okay, now this should be a perfect moment. This should be a perfect moment for Solar to fight. I mean, he's still being concerned about it, though. And obviously, the clumsiness here of this army is not going to do him any favors. But SHIN, yeah, he took too much damage early on. He cut a couple of corners, but he does not have enough stuff to hold against this particular push. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on the map. Ooh, ley lines. What's this? So I fast forwarded through the first 2 minutes of the game. And nothing odd happened. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess we can start at the 2-minute mark. This is weird. The fact that he goes for an extra hatchery over there can only ever be, at least in my mind, for larva production. And generally, the only reason why you want to go for additional larva production is if you want to go for a massive Zergling flood. So this is going to be a near wall over here in the choke point. But that's not normally the positioning of your third hatch. While SHIN is deciding now to hide links behind the main base mineral line. I mean, Solar has already seen a third hatchery here. I'm sure that this is something that is going through Solar's mind as well. The only reason why you would make a hatchery over here is if you want to go for a link flood. Well, Solar is going to see it right now. He doesn't yet have link speed, and I think this is all a little bit messy here for the Zerg player in blue. I mean, I really think you should kill these lings in blue, to be fair, but anyways, he wants to try and see if he can overwhelm this ASAP. Baneling Nest building on the low ground? Why in the world would you put it over there? Either way. Drones on hold position. Yeah, they're gonna be a little bit annoying. Additional drones move in from the high ground too. I mean, Solar with some really stellar control here, at least on the ramp. I really think SHIN could have killed those Zerglings though, when he moved across the map, and then simultaneously he could have targeted down the Baneling Nest too. He's making this look very smooth so far, actually. Like Solar, that is. SHIN he cancelled the third hatch. SHIN has not really achieved anything yet with this push. Third queen is available already. Nice transfusion there as well. Saved up enough energy for just barely one of those. Drones may be a necessity once again, though. Spinecrawler from the high ground goes down to the low ground. Defensive Baneling gets warped in. Drone drill. And this is why we don't see a lot of cheese in Zerg versus Zerg at the highest level, despite the fact that on the ladder, the entire matchup is just cheesers versus cheesers, okay? The vast majority of the games on the StarCraft 2 ladder below the absolute highest level is just two guys trying to rush each other, because playing defensively is really, really hard. This shows you, though, what happens even when you go for like an unconventional build, right? When you go for something that's a little bit odd. Solar can still defend it and not really even take that much damage. He lost 2 drones. He lost 2 drones. That's crazy. Now, SHIN, he's a greedy man. Look at this. What do we have on the back of this? We've had mass drone production and one of the strangest wall-offs ever. This is a full wall. I think this Evo chamber is just as like a backup against the potential Baneling bust. There's no way, though, that Solar is gonna bust the queen. There's, you know, maybe he loves busting, is what I'm, but, you know, like, you wouldn't do that, right? No, there's no way. Look at this. He doesn't even get to bust the queen, dude. He gets to bust the roach, and then he gets to bust the queen. That's too many drones. That's too many Banes. It's too expensive. Sometimes the sentences just, you know, they just flow out. It is what it is. There's a bunch of those moments in StarCraft 2. A Zerg trying to bust. A Protoss player trying to extend their thermal lance. It happens. Okay, so where do we end up now? Well, SHIN is doing... It's very odd, because SHIN is doing a 2-base build with 3 hatcheries. He's using that hatchery initially for a big Zergling flood, But now he's following it up with a 2-base push. You know what? As somebody who's been laddering again myself, this is the type of build that I might want to go ahead and study for a little bit, because it seems to be leading into some really good defensive play. I think the majority of the games on the ladder would already be over at this point in time. But SHIN has never really been in a whole lot of trouble. He's been the aggressor, and he's actually played this into like a good old 2-base roach speed +1 attack opener. It's an odd start, and I'm not sure how it would play out on other maps, right? Where you don't get a choke point this wide, but maybe I should say this narrow, right? Because this is a pretty tight one, but I quite like this, actually. I actually really quite like this build here for SHIN. Even though maybe at the absolute highest level, it could be suboptimal. Like maybe this is like, you know, 99% optimal or something along those lines, whereas what Solar here is doing is technically better. It is only going to be better if you micro it perfectly, and even Solar right now is finding himself at a supply deficit. It's kind of cool. It's very likely here, too, that the player that was forced to be defensive, so in this case Solar, it's very likely that they would heavily overproduce Zerglings. Now, Solar didn't actually make that many, but I think your average ladder hero probably would. Now there's a nice timing attack over here. +1 together with +1, or with roach speed, rather. Solar, though, is still an absolute defensive monster, right? Those links now with +1 armor, or +1 attack, rather, on the roaches, and no armor upgrade on the Zerglings, they are just melting. And suddenly, oh my god, this game may actually just be over. Yo, we gotta go back to Zerg school. I feel like this is a build that needs to be studied. Really cool style here from SHIN. Yeah, GG. Wow. Alrighty. Next up, we find ourselves on Incorporeal. No cheeky third hatchery this time around. No early Zerglings running across the map. It looks like we're starting off with a more conventional build. I kind of feel like the ball, though, is in SHIN's court as far as, like, straight-up StarCraft goes, right? Because I wouldn't be surprised if Solar wins 9 out of 10 games if it is the most conventional way to play Zerg versus Zerg. Solar is just extremely dangerous in a, like, quote-unquote normal match of StarCraft 2. He's extremely good in every matchup in that department. Zerg versus Terran, Zerg versus Protoss, Zerg versus Zerg. When it comes to conventional styles, Solar is king. But SHIN has some of that craziness in him, right? And that previous game was an excellent example of the type of stuff that can certainly catch Solar off guard. So far we have very normal builds. But I do feel like SHIN is likely going to be the one who needs to go ahead and mix it up a little bit more. I'd be very surprised if Solar goes for like a, I don't know, a 2-base Muta opener or something odd like that. Even though I'm sure he knows the strategies and he's perfectly capable of doing it, he seems to rarely pull out that trick whenever there's like a significant bunch of cash on the line. So this series was from Dreamhack Dallas, which was a $50,000 tournament. And when there's, yeah, that level of cash on the line, Solar is not somebody who will be crazy. Now, nice scout here by SHIN. He sees that there's a lot of Zerglings. Oh, Solar actually decides to just defensively morph in a bunch of Banes upon seeing links from the opponent. Roach Warren's coming up for both players. SHIN, for some reason, hiding his behind the mineral line. Although, oh god. I always forget, man. It catches me off guard every time. SHIN plays with the Diva announcer. Our forces are under attack. Terrible, terrible damage. It is one of the absolute worst. You could be playing with the Loko announcer, okay? Clearly the much better choice. Careful. Careful. Okay, nice dance here. These are two nerds on the dance floor right now. You love to see it. Trying to micro their Zerglings and their Banelings to make sure that we don't have any crazy issues. Keep in mind that we are one Baneling a hit. I feel like this is sometimes easily forgotten at this level of StarCraft, but we are like one Baneling hit away from the game being over. Like, as I speak, there's gotta be a Zerg versus Zerg currently going on, where somebody just lost like 30 Zerglings to one Baneling and it's just immediately GG. Sometimes when you watch too much StarCraft, That means for myself as well, man. You just kind of assume that everybody is a god, but no. No, it turns out pro gamers have really specific skills. I mean, that's a decent second hit, but it takes 2 banelings to one-shot... Well, 2 banelings to one-shot? It takes 2 banelings to kill a drone. And softening them up doesn't really get you anything done. Solar gets overwhelmed here. Shin, by the way, did have a quick lair. Are we gonna go Roach Speed or are we gonna go Spire? I think both are a decent option. For now, he's just spending his money on making new queens and going additional drones. Spine Crawler coming up. Queen on hold position. Yep, preventing those Zerglings from running in. There's the Spire, look at that. We're not gonna go Roach Speed. Shin has decided to go into a quick Spire here of his own. Roach Speed coming up though for Solar, no surprise there. The more conventional approach. Roaches in red. They're outnumbered right now, so they have to try and get on out of here again. There is a Zergling scout in the meantime on the other side of the map, but I don't believe that Solar saw the Spire. Nope. It is currently erecting in the main base. I feel like that's the appropriate verb to use when it comes to spires in particular. Anyway. Let's see. How many roaches will we have, Solar? So, in this weird timing attack, right? There is an opportunity for the player with roaches to counter the player with mutas. Assuming you are on the other side of the map by the time that you get across. Now, great Hydralisk timing here. Solar has seen, yep, with a cheeky little changeling, that indeed the Spire will be coming up. Now, this changes the entire dynamic of the matchup. Solar is going to try and test the waters right before mutas are out. The idea behind this is that maybe he can force the opponent to make roaches, and it looks like that mission has indeed been accomplished. Whatever roach gets made right now, they're 25 gas each. It means that you're dealing with less mutalisks initially. So Solar faking a move out there. Just slowing himself down. He's killing his own Baneling nest, which I find kind of unnecessary, but I guess he's a little concerned for when the mutas start forcing him to maneuver between his bases. The units get stuck in the choke point. So killing his own Baneling nest to get a little bit more movement makes a lot of sense. We're not really in a stage anymore where the players actually plan on switching it up. Banelings are a thing of the past. Now, Shin is playing a Mutalisk-based army, which means that he gets full map control. If you look right now at his vision on the minimap, he can see everything, right? Or at least all the relevant information. Solar at this point has one cheeky unit still in the top right. It's at low HP, and he's occasionally sending in a Zergling or maybe like a Changeling, but that's it. So he is sort of stuck in the corner of the map. Now, ultimately, if both players max out, generally speaking, the army on the ground is going to outperform the army in the air. But it's very risky. It is very easy for a bunch of like Banelings to run into the base right now, or for the mutas to swoop in and kill, I don't know, even like a Nexus, or, well, a Nexus would be quite rare. But he could easily snipe the lair if he's not careful. I do really like, though, that Solar still has that Overseer in the top right, and he's seen the timing of the fourth. If he can see the timing of, like, the gases on that fourth, he might be able to pick up what the opponent is going for. Now, this is a great snipe for Shin. Any Hydralist that gets killed right now is going to delay the inevitable maxed out push. There are quite a few Hydras. Roaches actually go straight across the map. Keep in mind that mutas obviously can kill all of them, but they take a long time. This could be the timing attack that Solar is looking for, though, but it's a dangerous one. He does have Burrow. He will have Tunneling Claws done as well soon. Yeah, and even though Roach's countered this pretty hard, he can deal a ton of damage with these units. Big Roach counterattack here too for Shindo. He sent his entire ground army across the map, trying to jump on the Hydras in particular. So the mutas have, well, free reign of everything else. Tunneling Claws is now available, though. A bunch of Zerglings working on the hatchery in the far top right. Suddenly there is action all over the map. There's still a bunch of Hydras available. Hydras obviously way stronger in a straight-up battle, assuming the Roaches aren't able to get on top of them. Okay, the mutas have decided to go all the way back home. Roaches in the main base right now. All of the player in blue, they are going to get cleaned up with relative ease. No burrow available there for Shin. Solar still dealing damage. A handful of Zerglings in the top right. They're going to get killed by the Broodlings, but they already achieved killing the hatch. What about this hatchery over here? The hatchery just barely survives. There are still some Roaches, though, available inside of the main base. They decide to uproot once again. Oh, okay. He decides to burrow two of them, hoping that the player in red was not paying attention, and He may just be onto something, although these units are going to get caught by an Overseer pretty easily. Nematized Carapace coming up right now here for Shin. Mostly just because he needs to get mobile detection out in some form. Okay, and as the dust settles... That was an extremely chaotic moment, but as the dust settles, both players are actually kind of similar. Shin still has map control. Solar still has a decent economy. He's going into a bunch of infestors right now, which I quite like. This Zerg and counterattack, though, could actually make this game way better here for Shin. Yeah. Generally, when you're the player with the air army, you really want to try and prevent the opponent from going up to 4 bases. 4 bases is when you can start thinking about making lurkers. You can start thinking about making, well, for example, a Viper, right? You can go up towards a Hive. Whereas going Hive on just 3 bases is very expensive. Solar, though, still had some gas, and he decided to spend that gas on infestors. Fungal growth into a bunch of Hydras is a phenomenal combination, obviously. Mutas don't have any movement abilities. They just fly really fast. So if you can root them in place, slow them down in some way, it could be very beneficial. Oh, he's hiding them, he's hiding them, he's hiding them. Okay, he's been spotted. Shin now knows that there might be some of those units available. I love the amount. Oh, 4! There was a secondary one in the main base! He decided to hide one in the main base mineral line. Okay, nice splitting right there by Shin. Trying his very best to at least get some of those units out of there, but that's an absolute disaster. In the meantime, Banelings are rolling through, though. Shin used that as an opportunity where Solar was eager to kill 20... How many? Okay, 21 drones in total there. That was risky. 11 Mutas did die. But I don't know if that outweighs the drones here. Let's see. Solar is going to try and now... Well, he's effectively forced into an all-in, right? He's going to try and put all of his eggs in one basket and go for a big push. Shindo, once more, commits to the counterattack. This game is pretty wild now. There's plenty of units still available. I mean, they do have +2 melee, though. +2 melee is not to be underestimated. It makes those Zerglings so much more powerful. And suddenly, they can actually kind of fight these Roach Hydra balls once again. Muta's going in around the side, and they have found an opportunity to kill the Spore Crawler, and after that, now the Hatchery, too. Solar has made his entire army move across the map. This Hatchery is not going to live for a whole lot longer. We have Spore Crawlers, though, dealing so much damage. Nice splitty right there against the Fungal Growth. Fungal Growth only deals a very small amount of damage, and now there's enough Mutas up in the air to just target down those Spore Crawlers with ease. Infestor's a little bit ahead of the pack. There's like 3 spores in the main base, though. Yeah, 3 spores, I don't think you can really kill that. Maybe the Mutas have to go home and start working on the Hydras? I don't know, that's a lot of Hydras, and obviously with the Infestors nearby too, it's going to be difficult to achieve much. Shin decides to turtle up in the top right-hand corner, builds a bunch of Spine Crawlers over here, 7 of them coming up. Together with the Mutalisks, I think this base is safe, although Solar did tunnel a bunch of Roaches behind the defense line. Hydra then goes down, and that means that Solar now is going to be stuck on just a single base. There's still 4 mineral fields available, but very little mining here in total. Spire now. The Infestor's trying to help out. Spire does fall, it seems, and the main hatchery here of Shin is also gone. Keep in mind that Solar knows where the final base of the Zerg player in red is located, but can he kill 7 Spine Crawlers, 8 Spine Crawlers? Is that something he can really snipe down? Fungal? Nope, not gonna happen. Another Infestor gets run to its death. Okay, Mutas have to make a beeline home immediately. I love the fact that there's a bunch of Roaches in the top right-hand corner, but who in the world wins this? Shin is at basically half of the supply, even less. But the Spine Crawlers are incredibly beneficial. He's also the only player mining here. Yeah, Solar recognizes the situation, though. He knows that he's gonna have to commit. It is dangerous to run your army into that many Spine Crawlers, but I really don't think he's got another choice. Although he did just destroy about half of the income, though, of the player in red. Bunch of Zerglings going into the main base. There's plenty of defenses available over here. Solar doesn't have an easy way to continue mining himself, so I think he needs to double down. I think he needs to jump those Spine Crawlers and try to get this game over with ASAP, because the more mining there is, the better this is going to be for Shin. Whoa, microbial shroud goes down. Not something we ever see used, but microbial shroud, I didn't even think about it. It's the perfect use case for microbial shroud. Microbial shroud reduces damage from flying units by 50%. Normally, we only ever see it being used against, like, Skytles, or maybe once in a blue moon against, well, for example, battle cruisers? I don't think Shin realized that that ability was still in the game, man. That's something we so rarely see, but perfect use case right there by Solar. If anything, the orange dust, right? It scared that army from the player and read away, and Shin was like, oh crap, I didn't consider that at all. He was concerned about fungals. That's the only thing I was considering, but... Okay, Solar showing us who's boss. Alrighty, match point here. For Solar, we find ourselves on the map Ultra Love. That previous game was extremely hectic. But now that I'm thinking about it, Infestors are actually amazing. Yeah. Why would you ever go into Vipers? Well, Vipers are good too, but the fact that you have to tech all the way up towards a hive, right? It's just expensive. I think Solar could have had a Viper or two out, though, at the end of that previous game. So Vipers are really nice against Mutas, at least normally, because Parasitic Bomb deals 120 damage, and Mutas have 120 HP. So you basically, I mean, Mutas regen HP too, so it's not like a one-shot, one-kill, but if you can, like, fungal growth and then throw down a Parasitic Bomb, I mean, the game is basically over in a heartbeat. Now, what are we doing here, Solar? Okay, Solar being a little bit of a cheeky man this time around. He's been playing mostly stock standard StarCraft. Apparently, we're gonna go for something a little different. In the meantime, Shin also opting to go for a very fast Evo chamber of his own, and there is not yet a third base for him. So both players opening up with a 2-hedge. Okay. Solar likely just skipping out everything here, right? So he skipped out the Zergling speed, he skipped out the Baneling Nest, he's just gone straight into a lair, straight into +1, and I'm assuming straight into Roach speed. On a map like this, where you have a little ramp that leads up towards your natural, it is generally a little bit more comfortable to go ahead and play this. So out of all the cheeses you can go for like all of the greedy builds you can go for, I think this is like the most standard one, you know? This is like baby's first timing attack. If I ever have a child who wants to learn StarCraft, this would be the build that I teach them. They would obviously have to be a Zerg. I mean, imagine having a kid and they want to be, I don't know, like a Protoss player or something. No. No, that might be, no. I don't know if that's, maybe that's not okay. But, yeah, I think this is a very normal way to start off with Zerg. Albeit one that we don't actually see that often at the highest level. Yeah, I'd be so proud if my kid decides to, you know, if I ever have kids, if they decide to, like, I don't know, ladder in StarCraft 2, but then if I catch them, like, say I catch them playing StarCraft 2, but they're just cannon rushing every single game. I don't know, dude. It would ruin the entire family name, you know? Anyway. Nice little Zergling run by here by Shin. Gets a kill on the third hatch. Was a cancel, but... Ooh, Solar. Okay. Solar going into a Nidus network. I feel like this is very out of character for Solar. He's faking a third hatch. Second time around, Shin is gonna swoop in and force the cancel. It's only about 100 minerals lost in total, though. Shin does not yet know about the Nidus network. Now, where is Solar gonna put the Nidus worm? I'm assuming over here, right? Because this is the most... Oh, no, we're gonna put it over there. Fair enough. It's the most likely position, maybe for the second one. Zerglings do run in right now as Shin's units... And Shin's announcer here let him know that they're all under attack. It's so bad. Terrible, terrible damage. Okay, here's the worm. Does he even have the opportunity to properly reload? Yeah, okay, we do unload it over here, and he's just ferrying everything straight across the map. Shin is making roaches of his own, though, for base defense, and he's already got a nice clump of them here. The drones were... What? Oh, okay, we're going into the main. Solar has brought drones across the map, too. Are we gonna try? I mean, this is so slow, man. The unloading takes forever. Shin swoops in, targets down the worm. And that is really awkward now, because that is only... That was only about half of the army of Solar. Not able to fight with his entire force in one piece is, yeah, absolute garbage for him. There were, I mean, we can have a quick little peek. Hold up, let me see. So he's unloading right now. Roaches swoop in. He's got a lot of army still stuck inside of the worm. You're never gonna win a fight with like half of your units. Ah, that's unfortunate here for Solar. And that means it all comes down to this. Persephone, final game in this best of 5 series. It has been a strong back and forth between both of these players, and it's nice to see this series come to a conclusion on a massive map, because this map has a lot of bases on it. It's very easy to accidentally slip up here and, well, have units in your expansion, but when you have some more time to prepare, just because of the rush distance being pretty big, it may just give you the edge that you need. And usually it means that players decide to play a little bit more macro-focused. So far, that is exactly the case. If we look at the production tabs so far, I mean, it's mostly identical. This is like a spot the differences picture, you know? They're the same picture. A little bit late, actually, on the Overlords right there, SHIN. Makes the game a bit messy for him. Solar grabs a slight advantage here. All in all, though, probably not gonna have much of an impact. Why can't the Zerg players just get along, man? Like, they're 2 Zerg players. Why do they have to fight over Persephone? Couldn't they just get, I don't know, annihilated in the swarm or something? Like, we can just become one? I mean, I know there are a lot of insects out there that will have, like, the type of tribe, right? Where you can only have one leader, aka one queen. But it's pretty evident to me that we have many queens. And there's many ant species that will live together. There's many insects out there too that can live alongside one another, you know? They can just assimilate into one. Or they can maybe have like mutual benefits or... Oh well. Apparently not in this instance. Ever since the Overmind left, the Zergs have really gone downhill. Yeah, unfortunate game right there though for Solar in the previous one, right? So, the Nidus Worm, it is a bit of a funky unit as it unloads every unit at the same speed. So, every unit is just unloading one at a time. Be it a Zergling, be it an Ultralisk, it takes forever. Yeah, I guess on the flip side, even though some ants will be able to live alongside each other, there's also literally ant wars that have been going on for forever. There's wars happening right now, dude, as we speak, between ants. Very dangerous. Very risky. And they've been going on for a very long time. How many ants are there in the world? I'm gonna Google it. How many ants are there in the world? 20 quadrillion. What? 2.5 million ants estimated for every human? What? 2.5 million ants for every human? That's a lot of ants. Yeah, so those guys are going to war right now as we speak. And maybe that's just what Zerg versus Zerg is. They're just fighting, they're just warring. They're just having a good time. Hydroiden coming up right here for SHIN, who's a little bit concerned for the opponent maybe playing Mutas. Interestingly enough, this entire game is... You can tell that both players really want to win, right? Both players here trying their absolute best to not lose anything here. So we end up with an important series during one of the biggest tournaments of the year, where we've had a lot of cheeky strategies on both sides, and then ultimately we end up with the most conventional game number 5. It's very funny. Like, we see this time and time again in StarCraft 2, where both players are like, okay, now we gotta lock in. The time for gaming is in the past. We gotta game more seriously now. We're not allowed to have fun anymore. We just have to try and commit to our strategy and try our absolute best. Now, in my mind, that benefits Solar a lot. I think Solar is the... Really, he decides to cancel it. He sees the mass amount of roaches coming across. I feel like Solar in straight-up macro games is the superior player. Still, though, this timing attack is a commitment. Shin decided to already drone up pretty hard, and he canceled his 4th hatch now in favor of additional unit production. Straight Roach Wars. Drones pulled away from their mineral line too. Keep in mind, he did overmake about 13 here. So any drone kill here looks nice. It's still going to keep Shin healthy in this game. The one thing, though, that I really like for Solar is that he's still upgrading his units. So Shin has been, well, he's been cutting a couple of corners, right? Trying to be pretty greedy across the board. This upgrade over here is relatively late. Now, he does have the quicker Hydra then. Hydras are really nice against Mutas, obviously, but they're even better when it comes to just straight up a Roach Ravager versus, like, Roach Hydra fights. Roach Hydra hits way harder than Roach Ravager does. You can start working on some of the Overlords, some of the Overseers. Okay. Solar wanted to go Pneumatize Carapace for a little bit. Not going to be his weapon of choice still this time around, as he's trying to bile down some of the OVs. Not bad. Both players actually hit a bit of a supply block at the exact same moment. Shin makes Overlords for the remainder of the game. Solar. Decides to go into Baneling Speed. Now, Baneling Speed is a dangerous decision. Banelings absolutely decimate Hydras. However, usually the Hydras have like a little bit of protection right in front of them. Usually the Roaches are going to be there to try and keep them safe. If Solar can roll the Banes into the Hydras, Shin is likely just going to get overwhelmed and falter immediately. However, if he can, well, have the Banelings roll into Roaches, right? If Shin can micro his units in such a way that the Banelings get killed by the Roaches, then suddenly the Roaches will just be able to obtain a victory pretty easily, right? Like, the Hydras are so critical. It's a dangerous call to make. Okay, he's hiding them. 23 Banelings coming up right now. 27 Banelings coming up right now. A very odd sidestep here for Solar. Rather than dealing with the higher tech, rather than dealing with the Hydras, by teching up to a similar unit himself, he decides to take like a lateral step in his tech route here and goes into the Banelings. It's a dangerous move, though. The engagement has to be good. I don't think Shin knows about it. So he's gonna have to be extremely nice here with his positioning. So far, I think it's good, though. Here come the Banelings. The Banelings coming in from the north. He's just gonna try and roll through whatever he can. In the meantime, the Roaches and the Ravagers in blue are just trying to hit whatever they can. And that was a pretty decent engagement. Yeah. I think that was about the best case scenario, considering Solar did not really go up against that many Hydras. Sometimes we see like half Hydra, half Roach. Shin really only had a couple of Hydras there, or maybe like a dozen or so Hydras in the mix. Against clumped up Roaches, the Banelings still did decently well, and in the meantime, I really like that Solar committed immediately with the rest of his army, utilizing the fact that the opponent's units would be moving. Oh, and I love this too, man. Little hit squad of units. It's about half the army. Maybe not that little of a hit squad, but he can now snipe the 4th hatchery with ease while working on his own 4 bases. And suddenly this game has now turned into a bit of a disaster here for Shin. It's still winnable, don't get me wrong, but this has become extremely difficult now. Solar has access to 8 gas, and with 8 gas, like I mentioned earlier, you can go up towards a Hive, you can go up towards Lurkers, you might be able to make a Viper or 2. He really doesn't want Shin to max out on Roach Hydra, because in straight up battles it's still dangerous. So he's just trying to continuously trade here. What about this though? Yeah, he's smelling blood in the water, but this might have been an overextension here from Solar. Those Hydras just putting in so much additional DPS. Defender's advantage obviously also massive here, right? As we do see more and more troops dying to this tiny hit squad of units for Solar. Okay. Now Solar may have an additional base. He doesn't really have drones for the additional base. This will mostly be a problem for Shin though, as soon as like the mineral fields start running out, and we're kind of arriving now at that point. Mineral fields on the low ground are out. Already 4 of them have disappeared in the main base. There's just not a lot of income anymore here for Shin. So he needs to make another expansion if he wants to continue playing the match. Solar, got full map control because of it, decides to once more push through here in the main fight. while also stepping forward with a whole lot of his roaches in blue to go after the third hatchery, aka what is soon to be the only mining that Shin is going to get. I think he can just target it down. I love the Hydra Den as well. Yeah, I think you go for the Hydra Den, the drones, the hatchery itself. He didn't quite micro this, but he still got everything that he needed. And this is a disaster right now here for Shin, because Shin only has a couple of skinny mineral fields and a dream. Solar's army should still be big enough, but Shin might be able to push through this. Keep in mind, the Hydra still put in a ton of supplemental damage. If Solar can hold this with minimum losses, he's going to be phenomenally ahead. Like, that is all he really is aiming for right now. So he decides to use the defender's advantage right now to his advantage as he sidesteps a bunch of the roaches around. Still, though, the DPS from those Hydras, the damage per second is not to be underestimated. Yeah. Shindo getting pushed back right now. I've got a feeling that he realizes that this is going to be an extremely difficult game to win. Because ultimately, we're both making the same type of units. There's no tricks, anything available here. But Solar is doing it off of an economy that is far more reliable. And even though maybe some of these fights in isolation are fine, and maybe Shin is winning some of the battles, he is losing the war. And that means that Solar obtains the victory, 3-2. Very fun series of StarCraft 2. Very, very fun. Especially that third game. That third game was kind of crazy. I don't remember the last time I've seen microbial shroud actually being useful in a game of StarCraft 2. Like, we see it every once in a while, but most of the time microbial shroud is just kind of there as like a cherry on top of the cake. It's just like a nice addition. But Solar actually using it very effectively here to obtain the victory. Yeah, and we had that weird like Zergling all-in as well. The Nidus worm shenanigans in game number 4. Very fun series.